Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today is actually going to be the last prediction video coming to you guys of the championship season, which is just absolutely crazy, guys. I can't believe this season has gone this quickly and it's all going to be concluded tomorrow on Sunday, which is just absolutely ridiculous. I must say though, I will also be doing some prediction videos for the playoff games coming up in the championship quite soon as well, but this will be the last official championship prediction video for this season for every team taking place, which is honestly absolutely crazy. So I've got to say, first of all, thank you so much for all the support you guys have showed on this series for the entirety of the season. For every Saturday weekend fixture list we've had of championship games going on, we've not missed one weekend of score predictions from this series, which is just absolutely baffling, and it has been your guys' incredible response, which is keeping me motivated to keep making these videos. So honestly, just thank you so much for that. So guys, in terms of the football going on this weekend, we have a lot which is still to be decided, guys. We've still got 3 teams who could be relegated, and as well as that, we've also got the title to decide. So all of that will be predicted in this video here today, guys. So if you've not seen these series before, let me quickly explain how it all goes down. So every week I give you my championship score predictions for what I think the results will be with each game going on in the championship. FIFA 17 also makes their score predictions, but what I'm really interested to know is what you guys have to say. So in the description down below, I'll leave all the fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and I want you guys to go ahead and make your predictions. And then if you do manage to get any of your score predictions correct, I will include your comment at the start of the next video, guys. So that's all the rules summed up. Let's get into some of the predictions. So guys, our first game is actually a huge game in deciding who is going to win the championship title. Of course, Brighton do need to get all 3 points if they are going to secure the title. Of course, it will depend on what Newcastle do as well, but they have a tricky game in my opinion. They have a tougher game than Newcastle in my opinion. They're coming up against Aston Villa away from home, and Aston Villa this season have had a really funny one. I mean, the way they're ending the season certainly isn't brilliant, but considering the form which Brighton are currently on, this, I think, could be potentially a tricky game. I do see this one being quite a closely contested affair. I mean, it's hard to tell, really, whether a team can go sort of out of gear when Brighton got promotion and click back into gear. Now they need to get the 3 points to win the title, but it'll be an interesting one. The thing holding Villa back in this game is, of course, their form, but as well as that, Jonathan Kodjia will be out of this game. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a 2-1 away victory for Brighton, of course. 3 points would secure the title. I'm going to say it's going to be 2-1 Brighton. FIFA saying 0-0. And then for our next fixture, guys, we have Brentford, who are coming up against Blackburn Rovers, and once again a game which is going to have a huge significance on the bottom of the championship. So for this game, I mean, Blackburn really have drawn a short straw here in my opinion, going away to Brentford on the last game of the season, needing really to get all 3 points to have a hope of survival. Is going to be a really tough one for them. Brentford this season have been terrific at home, and I do worry a little bit for Blackburn, especially I think their defence could be a bit suspect. You know, when Brentford are on form at home, they really are on form at home, and some of the players that Brentford have got could really pay dividend in this one and really damage Blackburn in some of their key areas. But for this one, it's a really difficult one, because I think Brentford have got the quality over Blackburn, but I just get that impression that Tony Mowbray will install a sense of fight and determination into this Blackburn side. So for this game, I'm going to predict a 1-1 draw, which could keep Blackburn in the championship, providing results go their way. So we'll see what I predict for the other ones soon, guys, but I'm going to say 1-1, FIFA saying 2-0 Brentford. And then for our next fixture, guys, we have another game going on which could have a team who is currently facing relegation. We have Bristol City, who are coming up against Birmingham. Now, of course, Birmingham, out of the 3 teams who could possibly go down tomorrow, Birmingham are currently in the best position, as they are currently 2 points clear of the relegation zone. So really, Blackburn do need to get a victory if Birmingham are going to be relegated. So for this one, once again, Birmingham, they've drawn a bit of a short straw in this one as well, because Bristol City seem to be ending their season with a real flourish. I mean, overall, it's been a very disappointing one for Bristol City, but with the way they're playing at the moment, this is going to be a really tough game for Birmingham, especially looking at Bristol City's recent home form. And I think one thing more than anything that has to be considered is the type of goal goals which Bristol City have been scoring lately, you know, a lot of intricate passing play, a lot of team build-up. I think that Birmingham will really struggle to cope with that if Bristol City are on top form in this game. And with it being the last home game of the season, it'll be the last time Tammy Abraham's playing for Bristol City. He'll want to leave on a good note. I'm actually going to go with a 3-1 victory for Bristol City in this game. I could be wrong with that one, but it's a game to keep your eye on for sure. I'm saying 3-1 Bristol City, FIFA saying 0-0. And then for our next game, guys, we have Burton Albion, who are coming up against Reading. So a game which doesn't really have too much on the line for this one. I mean, more than anything, I think Reading will be going into this game hoping not to pick up any injuries, of course. I do anticipate Reading to make quite a few changes going into this game, of course. That's been a bit of a controversial topic recently with Huddersfield being fined for making changes, which I just think is absolutely stupid, but whatever, that's for another time. But I do fancy Reading to make quite a few changes in this game. Burton, I think, will want to end the season on a high, and overall, I'm going to say this one's going to end as a 1-1 draw. I think these two sides will cancel each other out. I think it'll be a slightly weaker Reading side. They weren't brilliant in their last game either against Wigan, and Burton at home are a good side, so I'll say 1-1, FIFA saying 1-0 Reading. And then for our next game, guys, we then have Huddersfield Town, who are coming up against Cardiff. So, of course, Huddersfield definitely being in the news recently for, of course, them making, I think it was 9 changes for their latest game, and, of course, they lost that match, and then the EFL for some reason has decided to clamp down on it, and for some reason teams now aren't allowed to make changes to their squad. It just baffles me, really. I don't know why that's happening, but for this game, once again, I don't fancy Huddersfield to be at full strength going into this game, and why would they? You know, they'll want to rest players going into the playoffs, which actually means something. But for this game, Cardiff, I think, could pose a bit of a threat, but away from home, they've been a bit iffy this season, I'd say, Cardiff. But Huddersfield weren't even that bad in their last game. They just couldn't finish their chances. But in this game, I do fancy Huddersfield to finish their chances. And I'm going to go with a 2-1 home victory. FIFA saying 0-0. And then for our next fixture, guys, we have Newcastle United, who are coming up against Barnsley. So, of course, not many people were anticipating Newcastle to still be within a shout of getting the title come the last day of the season. Considering Brighton clinched promotion how many weeks ago now, for Newcastle to still have a chance of winning the title really does make it interesting at the top of the table. And they're coming up against Barnsley, and I'm just going to say I do fancy Newcastle to go ahead and win this game. I mean, Newcastle haven't really had the chance this season to take their foot off the gas because they've had to really fight until pretty much the last day of the season to ensure that they'll actually get promotion back up to the Premier League. So for this game, I fancy them to still have that drive. Of course, they'll want to win the title and they'll want to put that pressure onto Brighton. So I'm going to go ahead and back a 2-0 home victory for Newcastle, whereas FIFA saying it'll be 2-1. And then for our next game, guys, we then have Norwich, who are coming up against QPR. And I don't know what's going on with Norwich recently, but they just seem to be on absolute fire when it comes to scoring goals. I mean, their last game against Leeds, that ended 3-3. How many times this season have we seen Norwich, recently especially, just absolutely hammer teams going forward? It's been they have been absolutely fantastic to watch going forward lately. And for this game, I fancy the same to happen, really. QPR, of course, got the victory in their last game, which secures their championship status for another season. And they, of course, don't have anything to play for. Neither do Norwich, but I feel like being the last home game of the season, Norwich are going to want to put on a show for their crowd, and with how good they've been playing, and especially going forward recently, I'm going to go with a 3-1 home victory for Norwich, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 2-0 QPR. And then for our next game, guys, we have Nottingham Forest, who are coming up against Ipswich Town, and once again, this is a huge game going on at the bottom of the championship, and possibly taking place between two of the most inconsistent sides in the championship as well. I mean, at times this season, we've seen Forest play brilliantly, we've seen Ipswich playing brilliantly, but equally to that, we've seen them both be dreadful at times this season. So I've got to say, this is pretty much an impossible game to predict, in my opinion, because we don't know which side is going to turn up for this game. But for this one, of course, with Forest still having something to play for, I feel like Ipswich will have gone slightly off the boil. However, I do feel like this game will be incredibly cagey, and I'd be surprised if this game was to end like 4-0 to Forest or something like that. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a very nervy 1-0 victory for Nottingham Forest, of course. They really do need to get the victory in this one. They're currently level on points with Blackburn Rovers, so if that was to happen, of course, with my other predictions going, that would mean that Blackburn would be relegated. So I'm going to go with 1-0 Forest. FIFA saying 1-0 Forest as well. And then for our next game, guys, we then have Rotherham, who are coming up against Derby County. So to a lot of people's surprise, I think it's fair to say, Rotherham are actually ending the season quite well. They've actually been one of the best sides in the Championship recently, you know. In the last 2 games, getting a win and a draw. That's not bad going from them at all. So they'll, of course, want to finish the season with a bit of a flourish going into their next campaign in League One, but they are coming up against Derby. I feel like Derby will be a bit of an improvement of the sides which Rotherham had played recently in Preston and Ipswich, and of course Derby in their last match looked absolutely electric going forward. So for this one, I do actually fancy this one to be quite close, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 away victory for Derby. FIFA saying it'll be 1-0 Rotherham. And then for our next game, guys, we then have Sheffield Wednesday, who are coming up against Fulham. And this is actually a very interesting game going into the last day of the season, because these two sides could go ahead and actually meet each other in the playoffs. If Sheffield Wednesday go ahead and win this game, that will mean that they'll be playing Fulham in the playoffs, providing that Reading don't win their game. So that's quite an interesting one going into the end. Psychologically, this could be a very interesting game. I do feel as if both sides won't put out their strongest 11 going into this one, because, you know, it's human nature really to rest players going into the playoffs. So for that reason, I think it is a very difficult one to predict, because we don't know how fully strengthened these two sides will be. So for that reason, I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw for this game. I think it will end level in the end, whereas FIFA's saying it'll be a 0-0 draw. And then going into our next game, guys, we have Wigan, who are coming up against Leeds United. So, of course, Leeds currently have like a 1 in a 10 gazillion chance of getting into the playoffs. If they somehow manage to win this game by like 14 goals to 0 or something like that, and Fulham lose their match, that will actually mean that Leeds will go ahead and sneak into the playoffs, but I think we can all agree that just won't happen in this game. So Leeds really going into this one not having anything to fight for. Wigan equally to that, you know, they've of course already been relegated. However, I just got the impression of this game, and it's given. I'll tell you a game which I think this one could be quite similar to. If you recall yourself back to last season in the Premier League, where Tottenham played Newcastle on the last day of the season. Tottenham have, of course, bottled the title by that time, and Newcastle had already been relegated. And I actually think a similar game could actually go on in this one. I think Wigan could actually take Leeds in this one. So I'm actually going to go with a 2-1 home victory for Wigan. I'm just not sure where the Leeds players will be at mentally, knowing that they've lost out on the playoffs when they were in such a comfortable position. Wigan as well, they don't... in their last game, Wigan, I didn't think they were that bad against Reading. They just couldn't finish their chances. And with players at home like Nick Powell seeming to play quite well, especially at home towards the end of the season, I'm going to go with a 2-1 win to Wigan. I'm going to be bold on this final prediction video, so I'll say 2-1 Wigan, FIFA saying 2-1 Leeds. And then for our last game, guys, of the Championship season, we have an absolutely incredible game going on. We have Wolves, who are coming up against Preston. No, I'm joking. I honestly think that this game could be an awful game. I mean, two sides coming up against each other who really are ending the season on a low note, and it's a shame for Preston, especially really considering it has been a good season for Preston in my opinion, but the form we're ending the season on really isn't anything to shout about. The same goes for Wolves as well, and I just feel like Wolves have got a couple of suspensions going into this one. Preston have got a lot of injuries going into this one. So neither side will be at its full strength going into this one. And I just feel like the quality will be zapped out of this game. And I'm going to go for a bore 0-0 draw for this game. That's how I'm feeling going into this one. Whereas FIFA's saying it'll be 2-0 Wolves. So there you have it, guys. That wraps it up for my final prediction video of this season. So if all of my predictions do come true in this video here today, that will mean that Blackburn will be relegated, and it will also mean that Brighton will win the Sky Bet Championship title this season. So guys, make sure you get into the comments down below and let me know what you think will happen on the final day of the Championship. I'll be very interested to know. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Make sure you check out all the other links in the description down below. Drop me a follow on Twitter as well, as I always tweet before I upload the video. Therefore you'll never miss a video ever again, guys. But apart from that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.